want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
Welcome back to Hacks on Hacks, the media criticism podcast preferred by dozens of savvy listeners. I'm Sonny Bunch, executive editor of the Washington Free Beacon and co-host of the Sub Beacon podcast. Joining me on my left, ironically, is Free Beacon president Aaron Harison. Aaron, how are you?
What is dead may never die, Sonny.
Glad we're getting the team back together, kind of here. And joining me on my right, again, ironically, is Free Beacon staff writer and noted squish, Alex Griswold. Alex, how are you today?
Also a Game of Thrones quote.
That's
I can't think of any. I'm
That's
sorry.
the worst.
I froze.
I didn't even know that was from Game of Thrones.
That's the worst. All right, first up, the New York Times has the inside scoop on the Dem Civil War. Neera Tanden and the Center for American Progress in one corner. Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders and his Bernie brothers, as Neera's mom put it in the story, in the other corner. Bernie and his people are upset that the Clinton-backing think tank attacked him with a video highlighting the fact that he's a millionaire socialist. Tanden and her people are upset that Bernie exposed Hillary Clinton last election as a deeply unpopular empty pantsuit. Most interesting is the fact that the New York Times is suddenly interested in Cap's willingness to put money over principles. Aaron, can you think of any other outlet that has been highlighting Cap's shadiness for years? And what is different now?
Well, I know that there are probably very few people that actually read our website.
Yes.
But if there
Mostly
are
podcast listeners.
yeah, if the podcast podcast listeners want to go ahead and take a gander over to freebeacon.com and type in a little group called Democracy Alliance or Center for American Progress in the search function, you will find all the information that you would ever wanted to know about these nefarious left-wing socialist groups that are trying to buy our democracy. So I do find it interesting that Neera Tanden and her mother are suddenly the center of the political universe on the left. I find it a curious combo when everybody knows that Neera Tanden is not just some person that heads this think tank. She is a puppet of a puppet, okay? John Podesta is the actual person who operates the Center for American Progress. Neera Tanden is his puppet, and John Podesta is the puppet of the Clintons who founded Center for American Progress. So that's really what we're dealing with here. We're kind of like dealing with somebody who just goes around and raises a bunch of money and gets in fights with people on Twitter. So,
well, not that there's anything wrong with that. Alex, I do find the story itself to be pretty interesting. In part, there was a modest backlash against the New York Times for quoting extensively Neera's aged mother, and I'm curious what you make of this, because she had some good color there. The Bernard brothers.
I think I saw someone tweeted, like, always go to the moms, because they're always mouthy, they always have no filter on them, and they'll always go on the record, and they're always knowledgeable.
Yeah.
This is something you see kind of often, I want to say. I see this fairly often where you're doing a profile on someone and you get quotes from the mom, and they're always above and beyond what the person is actually willing to admit. I think it's a little unclassy on the New York Times parts. I doubt they...
You wimp.
I know, I am a wimp.
This is the thing. Okay, this woman was integral in forming Neera Tanden's political career. Everybody knows this. This is not some woman living in a trailer out in the middle of the woods.
She's like a 78-year-old woman.
Oh, now you're going to pull some ageism on me. Okay,
yes.
If anybody knows anything about me, it's that I love the olds. Okay? I'm not going to sit there and say that they're all feeble once they hit the age of what? What did you say? She's 78?
I want to say 78, yes.
Okay, yeah. Bernie Sanders is their leading candidate for president right now, and he's the same age.
He's feeble and dim-witted as well, so I think it's really...
It's true. It would not be fair to quote Bernie. In any extended way. No, I mean, look, this is actually kind of an interesting topic, and I'm truly amazed that the New York Times has decided that they're going to start attacking the Center for American Progress for, like, appealing to donors. You know, like, they've been doing this for years. They literally had somebody go after SNL for making jokes about the Sandlers. Do you guys remember this? The Herb and Marion Sandler. There was a skit on SNL where they pointed out that these guys are crooks, and furiously Think Progress is emailing with each other like, how do we push back on this? These guys give us tons of money. It's
well, kind of the mark of a dead comedy format if your whole go-to is a bunch of obscure donors that that nobody is in your audience has ever heard of that they want to play on Saturday Night Live. People say Saturday Night Live is dead. I don't know where that comes from.
That's
do
probably
they say
true.
that?
If they're doing donors or skits about the Sandler family, like it's dead.
But not the Adam Sandlers.
Not the no. Who I believe is coming back to host.
He is coming
the
back to
season
host.
finale. Might be the first episode of SNL that I personally will watch in about 15 years.
I thought you were going to say first episode of SNL, which Adam Sandler might be funny. Could happen.
Some of the
old
you want to attack
sketches.
Adam Sandler?
How dare you?
What,
you want to
Opera
attack
Man?
You want to attack somebody who is arguably the most bankable movie star in Hollywood on this podcast?
Well, what about Kevin James?
Kevin, not as bankable. Okay, not nearly as good of a canon. Okay. Sandler has nothing but classics out there, and he scored. How much was his deal with Netflix to make a bunch of made
Huge
straight
deal.
to video?
Huge deal.
$1 billion.
Huge deal. All right. Next up is Buttigieg, the new Beto. The media certainly seems to love him as much, showering the small-town mayor in profiles and press coverage while swooning over his ability to speak Norwegian and some other stuff. I don't know. Free Beacon's David Rutz compiled a supercut of the fawning coverage on cable. Let's take a listen to that now.
Wow. Happy Monday.
Audacity of hope, a 37-year-old Indiana mayor.
With a speech that many have said are historic.
Everybody stopped. They were watching Tiger, and they watched Mayor Pete.
What you saw yesterday in South Bend was good.
What was the magic in the space?
We saw heroes yesterday. We saw two heroes. And people saying,
I
this
did.
guy is the real thing. We love Mayor Pete.
I love Mayor Pete. I'm literally in love with him.
My mom loves Mayor Pete.
This guy is chicken soup for my soul.
Because I've been so impressed, more and more impressed every day.
I'm thrilled that he's caught fire.
The second coming of Obama, huh?
The unpronounceable name, now a household name.
That's a tough one for Fox News to know. Good in every way.
A military vet, a Harvard grad, a Rhodes Scholar. You speak many languages.
This guy is from a flyover state, but he went to Harvard.
Sick of old people, he looks like Alex P. Keaton. Scared of young people, he looks like Alex P. Keaton. Religious, he's a Christian. Atheist, he's not weird about it.
A real Renaissance man.
See history being made.
It's a great example of someone just being really, really fucking smart.
And he's calm, and he's compassionate.
Good news for me is elections are multiple choice. You just have to be able to pick it up out of a lineup.
Yeah, and hopefully people will.
In Augusta, Georgia, and in South Bend, Indiana, you had two stories that combined to truly represent part of what this country is all about.
That guy there, that guy makes me feel better.
Alex, Donald Trump, who is always at a loss for demeaning nicknames that damage the aspirations of his competitors, has to be shaking in his boots while thinking about running against an egghead whose last name starts with the word butt.
It's funny that you mention the Trump running up thing because for all the talk about how great this guy is, about how inspiring he is, there actually was a poll on Monday in which he is one of the few Democrats who is running behind Donald Trump. If the election was today, according to Emerson, he would lose to Donald Trump by 2 points.
I actually had not seen that poll. That's good. That's news you can use here. So, how are the other candidates doing? They're all basically
they
running
polled,
ahead, right?
On an average of 1, there's a few candidates who are tied. Guys like Biden are up by 6. So
really?
He's probably the strongest candidate at this moment.
It's good. The one guy who's not running.
Yeah, there was a PPP poll taken a while ago. That's a Democratic firm, so naturally the numbers are inflated. And they found the Democrats on average winning by 7, but Buttigieg, who cares, was polling last of those Democrats. So
yeah,
if he is this great, inspiring white hope, the voters haven't caught on. Just the media seems to have.
Well, are we seeing a Beto redux? I mean, is this Aaron? Is this another replay of the media finding a great white hope only to be disappointed brutally?
This is deeper than Betomania.
Oh,
Betomania is basically. I kind of put these people into certain categories and the way that the media sees themselves reflected in the candidates. Beto is kind of like their lost brother who kind of went off to discover the world, kind of a loser, kind of a slacker, never really had a job, would kind of move back in with the folks for 6 or 7 months at a time, then go off and do some backpacking, and maybe he's like a He's like a nature guide out in a national forest someplace. Now, Buttigieg is more like what they see in themselves when they look in the mirror. Mm-hmm. He is everything that they wish that they were, but they're not. Okay? So that is why you see this fawning coverage. He is the best of the media. Buttigieg would be a magnificent purveyor of the New York Times. If Carlos Slim, the Sulzbergers were to ever die in some kind of a mass conflagration, I feel that Buttigieg would be the writers and the reporters' choice to lead the newspaper into the future.
This is kind of an interesting way to look at it, because you could see the two sides of the media reflected in both of these guys. You've got the slacker musician Beto, who he's got his journal. And he's out there. He's trying to find himself on the road. And then you've got the hardworking nose to the grindstone dork. You got the dork,
multilingual dork who encompasses all of their favorite self-reflective social cues. You've got the he's like a rural guy who then is becoming who then moved into the city and is taking over the city, okay? Getting away from...
He's a gentrifier.
Right, so he can kind of check all the boxes there. He's got the gay thing going on, which they love just to rub in the faces of the horrible right-wing evangelicals that are out there. Love to smear that in their faces. So it trolls the right in a perfect sense, and he can kind of, they can shape him into being something that goes against most stereotypes of the right.
Well, and it is interesting to look. I did see one poll that shows that he is drawing most of his support from Biden, right? He's cutting into the Biden and Bernie kind of older, whiter, wealthier base of support, which is interesting.
This is why Biden's going to be why Bernie is going to be their nominee. He is the one unwavering base. Biden is great until people start to be exposed to Biden. The more you know Joe, the less you actually like him. He was insulated in 12 and he was insulated in 8 because Obama was this overwhelming force in the media narrative and what you saw in the campaign. People don't vote for the vice president. They vote for the president. And if they're voting for the vice president, you've got a problem in your campaign.
Yeah. All right. Finally, we turn to the world of late-night TV, where Seth Meyers is planning a 90-minute spectacular on Thursday dedicated to breaking down the Mueller report. Mueller?
I think it's Mueller, report. Right? I said that.
I pronounced it wrong about 1,000 times on our last episode.
You pronounce it correctly. He's the one who pronounces it wrong.
It's actually Mule-edge.
Mueller-edge. The Mueller-edge report. Frankly, I'm glad Seth is on that wall. We need him on that wall. It's not like we have 3 24-hour cable news networks ready and waiting to break down the report for hours on end, or 3 broadcast evening news programs that tons of people watch, or countless websites from every conceivable ideological perspective eager to explain exactly what is in the Mueller-Judge report. Hopefully Seth can get the celebrities in on the action. Aaron, do you think Leslie Jones will have any key insights into the report's findings?
Sonny, who the f*** is Lindsay Jones?
Leslie Jones.
Leslie Jones.
She was one of the Ghostbusters.
She was one of the Lady Ghostbusters. She's on SNL.
There's Lady Ghostbusters?
There's Lady Ghostbusters.
Oh my God, sir. Yes.
Jeez. Unfamiliar with the term.
This was the social justice cause of the year.
Years ago. Look,
you are way behind.
This is the problem. Seth Meyers is one of the most unfunny people existing in Hollywood today. So if they're turning to him, he is like a poor man's Jon Stewart. He's the one who tanked Saturday Night Live. That is where all the woke started on their skits, and that's where the thing stopped being funny. They stopped punching up and they started punching down, and that's where they're left now. Is they are left in this cocoon of very constrained comedy where they are too afraid to go out and offend anybody other than conservative, normal Americans. That's where we're at, and that show sucks, and he started it. So if Seth Meyers wants to be the face of the comedy resistance, well, good luck, buddy. I fear for your ratings.
Alex, sometimes I have a hard time getting worked up about this thing because I literally haven't watched a late night show ever. I know, even when I was of the age when people watch this sort of thing, I'd usually be watching reruns of The Office or something on TBS.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same way, which confuses me because I don't know that is Seth Meyers known for being that guy who's the woke guy going for the clapter on late night compared to guys like Colbert and Kimmel, right?
He's less the overt.
Well, I do wonder if this is a play for the. I mean, the problem is this avenue is so crowded already. It's not like there's a lack of competition.
Oh, you might
for
be right.
Woke.
Yeah.
For the if you're not going to watch Samantha Bee or John Oliver or Colbert or Kimmel, you're going to watch Seth Meyers for 90 minutes.
Well, he follows Fallon, right? And Fallon.
Oh, he's very apolitical.
Right.
He gets people. He's not apolitical.
He started to get more political because he was being beaten in the ratings by Colbert, who was nothing but politics. So that was the criticism.
And he got
of Kimmel.
he got a bunch of grief for ruffling
the hair rustle.
The hair ruffle.
Right. He was too playful with Trump, and when he needed to go out there and rip his face off and call him a big orange menace, that's what you got to call Trump if you're a late night host. You got to be like, joining us now from Manhattan, and Washington, is the big billionaire orange menace,
Donald Drumpf.
Yeah, Drumpf. Drumpf is in the house.
Drumpf. All right. Well, I'm excited to watch. This will be the first episode that I watch, so maybe it will be.
I might actually watch now that we're discussing.
It will be a giant. I'm not watching. I stay up till 2 a.m. watching nonsense about politics.
What does he plan to do if there's just not a lot in the report? Is what I wonder. You're basically prejudging it by having this extended thing to begin with, because maybe there's just not going to be a lot of content.
Frankly, I would be interested to see how they manage to consume the report in the because they tape the show at 3, 4 in the afternoon, something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's not a live show, so are they gonna have every producer gets a 50-page chunk to read, and they have to summarize the findings for everyone? I don't know. I would watch it behind the scenes on the terrible show that they're gonna do. But, that's just me.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. We're done with this. Now we turn to producer and bon vivant Andrew Kugel.
Hello, Sonny. I have 2 media meltdown stories for you today.
Ooh, all right.
First up, Media Matters. Yesterday, they told Ben Shapiro on Twitter to, quote, "F*** you and the bureau you wrote in on," after Shapiro called out the Washington Post for labeling him as a far-right activist and stoking tension between Muslims and the West. So a little background on all this. There's a lot of characters that play in this. Shapiro first tweeted about the Notre Dame church fire and how the cathedral was a monument to the principles of Western civilization. This, in return, made NYU professor Talia Levine. I think we all know her. She was the...
Yeah, I don't know if she's really an NYU professor. She's like a adjunct
visiting
or something.
Professor,
visiting,
that sort of thing.
Yeah, about...
Somebody with a lot of Twitter followers who can boost NYU's profile on social media.
Yeah, more on her later, but she wrote this op-ed for the Washington Post that accused Shapiro of being a far-right activist and using the Notre Dame fire, that would fan the flames between Islam and the Western civilization. Shapiro called Talia and the Washington Post out for this over Twitter, and that prompted the Media Matters to say, "F*** you," in response. Media Matters began to get ratioed, and then they responded by adding some context to this. And the context was about how the writer, Talia, was being harassed by conservatives previously for her reporting on the ICE employee who was a disabled veteran as being a Nazi.
Right, the disabled veteran that she accused of being a neo-Nazi because she thought he had a Iron Cross or something.
She saw maybe a third of a tattoo and decided it must be the Iron Cross.
Yeah. And she was fired from that job, or was she freelancing?
I want to say she might have quit. I don't think, but it was probably one of those. She was pushed out the doors.
She was working for the New Yorker as a fact checker, right? And then
that's what makes it particular.
Yeah. Either way, Media Matters used that as the defense for her. People are always harassing her for her reporting last time, and now they're attacking her now.
Maybe she shouldn't be.
But anyways, Media Matters continued. By 3 hours later, after adding context, they added additional relevant context and called Shapiro's tweet unbecoming, or they called their original tweet to Shapiro unbecoming and unusual for the prestigious organization. And what they did is they brought up this 2-3 week old tweet from Shapiro where he again called people who were accusing him of being the alt-right, saying, and I quote, "F*** you and the road and f*** the horse you rode in on." So, I mean, they were just their defense, Media Matters' defense was oh, Shapiro tweeted this at once, so we are allowed to tweet it.
How did the horse become a donkey?
Why?
Because they said burro.
Why? Because I think Shapiro's height.
Okay,
I think it's a slight dig at his height.
Is it
an Easter reference?
Yeah, I don't know.
Either way, but the fact that
hold on, how tall is he?
He's short.
He's like
short.
5.
But I mean, what?
I've never met him.
I assumed it was about immigration or something. The burro thing. I assumed it was I have no idea.
Is he taller than Tom Cruise?
I think so.
If you're taller than Tom Cruise, you're not short.
I think
that's the way the
cutoff?
world works. Yeah.
We
That's
should
the way
have
it
them.
works.
We should have them stand next to each other.
I would love to see that.
check
No
that.
lifts, bare feet.
Who's taller, Rubio or Tom Cruise?
That's also something that we need to check on. I think his didn't his fake college football team list him at like 5'9" or something, but
That's pretty tall.
Yeah,
well, they
fine.
always give you a couple extra inches though. So
I go with smug. If you're under 6 foot, you're short.
If you're he has comfortably smug has a cutoff of like 6'2". Anyone under 6'2" is considered a short person.
it's probably
My
right.
6 foot.
Okay,
Either way, too, it's just funny how Media Matters calls themselves a prestigious organization and how this tweet is unbecoming of them. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, speaking of like things I want to see the background on, who got yelled at for this and who decided to come up with the kind of the apology?
They probably all came up with the tweet, oh, this will be funny, guys. Let's tweet at Shapiro. And then when everyone started piling on them.
Well, one of the things is that Talia used to work for Media Matters. So I assume it was probably some social media staffer who was like friends and who cares.
So where was she writing for? She writes for the New Yorker?
No, she was a fact checker for the New Yorker.
But what's she do now?
Now she's
Unclear
got
name.
like a visiting professorship at NYU.
Oh, so you go from Media Matters to NYU.
That's how it works.
That's the launching pad? I just wanted to make sure about that because I was always under the impression that academic institutions played it straight down the line.
Well, as a visiting lecturer at George Washington University,
Yeah.
you know how this pipeline works.
I know all
Aaron
about
Harrison.
it. I know all about it.
What else you got, Andrew?
The second meltdown from the media is from HBO Bill Maher, who went on a long rant on how millennials shouldn't have sex and shouldn't have kids because it's bad for the earth. I think we have a clip.
Yeah, let's listen to that.
Let's take a break from bashing millennials for their safe spaces, man buns, and avocado toast, and give them credit for doing something right. Having less sex than other generations, and so less babies, which is good for the planet. Every week, it seems, there is a new study about how little sex millennials are having. But instead of asking why America's young people are having less sex, let's just be glad they are. Earth Day is coming up, and I can't think of a better gift to our planet than pumping out fewer humans to destroy it. People talk a lot about bringing a cloth bag to the market and driving electric, but the great under-discussed factor in the climate crisis is there are just too many of us, and we use too much shit. Climate deniers like to say, there's no population problem, just look out the window of an airplane, something but empty space down there. But it's not about space, it's about resources. Humans are already using 1.7 times the resources the planet can support. The world's population is increasing by 1 million people every 4.5 days.
I always love it when he goes full Thanos.
Yeah. Again, another thread, piece of your thread on how
environmentalists they make great villains.
They
just
do.
Because it is shocking to. I guess it's not shocking, but it is kind of surprising to hear someone just say out loud that we need fewer humans on the planet. It is like anti-human.
Well, this has been kind of the rage
ideology.
this week. There was that tweet from, I don't know who tweeted it, but it was like his friend was saying like, oh, I'm going to have my 6th child. And the guy
Jeff
was
Pearlman.
so upset saying like, when do you tell them that enough is enough?
Yeah.
I want to defend the overpopulation people for a minute. Like, look where they're from. I mean, Maher lives in Los Angeles, which is just nothing but a sea of humanity for hundreds of miles.
Megalopolis.
I believe Perlman's from New York City, right? Which is just, it builds up as opposed to building out. It is just a sea of crushing humanity.
Yes.
But the problem is, for these people, their perspective is so warped because they only live in these small areas of the world. Like, they've never been to South Dakota where you can literally see for miles and hundreds of miles without seeing another soul or another human structure. So
but it's not about the space.
Look, if I had only been in New York City or Los
about
Angeles,
the resources.
I would be terrified of overpopulation because I think the rest of the world looks like that.
This
too.
would be good for the conservatives, though. If libs don't reproduce, we outnumber them in the end.
Oh yeah,
good point.
I'm not siding with them. I'm just trying to defend their perspective. They're just more ignorant to the rest of the fact that this is an expansive globe that we live on.
Yeah, that's probably true. But yeah, I am sympathetic to the argument that maybe millennials, it's good that they're not breeding.
What?
Given how terrible they would be as parents.
Hold on.
Yes, absolutely. Number one baby name is Khaleesi or something like that.
Holy
I can't.
But now, was Maher saying they shouldn't have sex? Did you say that in your intro?
Yeah, he was like, well, the studies, like Charles, Free Beacon report, his report on this, how
Charles Lehman
have been saying millennials have been having less and less sex than previous generations, and Maher was applauding that, saying that's a good thing because
wait a minute, but
we
Maher
should
is like
procreate.
this sexual fucking bon vivant who is out there like.
Speaking of bon vivants,
yeah, exactly right. I'm trying to use that term appropriately, but he's like this sexual crusader for like, you know, he's been this way for a long time. He's like, yeah, you can, you know, screw whoever you want all over the place. So, like, he's kind of hypocritical there.
I think you just don't have the kids is like his main point. Is like
you take that pregnant chick to the abortion place, right?
He's pro-sex, just anti-child, which actually I think is not hypocritical because I'm pretty sure Maher does not have any kids.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That he knows of.
Well, yeah.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Now it's time for my favorite part of the show, the worsts.
The worst.
Alex, what was the worst tweet this week?
The worst tweet this week comes to us courtesy of Libby Watson over at, what is it called? Like Fake Gawker?
Fake Gawker News.
Yeah, Fake Gawker News. Wondering why Americans are, quote, weird about old beloved buildings. This is what she tweeted at someone. I should mention, while Notre Dame was
literally burning.
Literally in flames.
Down.
I was just thinking how Americans are so weird about old European buildings. I don't know if they realize, like, every other church in England is this old.
A friend of mine who is a immigrant from Britain, from Great Britain, DM me to say, I'm pro-immigration, but I want her deported. I want her out. She makes all the rest of us look bad.
Is she really in the UK? Is that where she is?
No, she lives in America. She is on some sort of visa. I remember when Peter Thiel rightfully and awesomely destroyed Gawker, she was worried about how she was going to get her cats back to the UK.
Oh, that would have been glorious. Oh, but yeah, what I love about this tweet is how it manages to be both pretentious and like insanely shallow at the same time. Pretentious about, you Americans don't understand how old these European buildings are, while actively not caring about the fact that an old European building is burning down.
Well, that's what European expats love to do. That's like their stock and trade is coming over here and talking about how unsophisticated the Americans are, yet they're the ones who choose to live here.
Americans have no history.
It's so weird to make it about Americans, too, because it's the French were devastated.
Yeah.
There are old buildings in France. Yeah. Like, they understand that there are old buildings around everywhere.
And also, the French have polluted most of Western Europe with their horrible architecture, from post-World War II. Like, the crap they've done in Italy is like it sticks out like sore thumbs. It's horrendous. So they have no place to really, to sit here and brag about their superiority of culture.
I am a little bit worried about the reconstruction of Notre Dame, if they might try to do something stupid with it. Well, I really hope they make it essentially just recreate the original.
You just want it to be the same.
I want everything
you
to be
don't
the
want
same
anything
forever.
to change. Right?
Yeah, basically.
Wow. Reactionary. All right, Andrew. I understand that noted game theorist Seth Abramson was on Real Time this week. Surely this was the worst thing on TV, not just this week, but all year.
Yes, we have a clip. We can play it.
Yeah, let's listen to a few minutes of this.
I hope we will get to the proof of collusion soon. But before we do that, I want to just talk about your technique, because I think it's very exciting when there's a new literary event. And I would say what you do is that. I mean, you're a, what is the word you use? A curatologist or a curatology or?
Curatorial journalist.
I can't get that. But I get close. And what you really do is put out a long, long Twitter feed. I've read it. And it's interesting because it's like watching someone write a book in real time. You don't mind if people see that you make mistakes, you erase stuff, you amend stuff, you edit stuff. So is this like the new version of what we went through in maybe the 70s when there was the new journalism, when they were mixing fact and fiction? You think this is as big a change?
Well, I think it's definitely new. We're in the digital age now, and what we find is not that there isn't enough quality journalism, but that there's actually so much of it that a lot of it falls through the cracks. It gets published, read once, and then forgotten. So what a curatorial journalist does is they look back decades across media that's being published across different continents, and they see stories that are lost and how they connect with one another and how they might be important now but weren't realized as important as at the time.
So you connect the dots.
Exactly.
You're the guy at the evidence wall.
Essentially, yeah.
With the red tape.
I have no idea what he means by he describes himself as an actorial journalist. Like, basically...
Curatorial?
A curatorial.
Curatorial?
I haven't...
Did you even type it down right?
No, probably not. No, okay. I was getting the red squiggly line.
Okay. I do love the fact that Maher has him on and is like taking him seriously when for years, even like the left has been, we have to, like, this is a headline from Slate from 2017. Democrats, please stop sharing Seth Abramson's very bad tweets. And it concludes with this little bit, which I think is worth reading. What Abramson et al. Are selling is the idea that every fact is knowable and every speculative suspicion justified if you make the right connections and assumptions. But I guess the nice thing about living in a world of if is that you'll never run out of material. And this is Abramson's whole shtick is like the 50 tweet thread where he's like, we're gonna explain exactly how Trump is connected to this Russian business, which in fact proves collusion.
Oh, so he's like human Wikipedia.
Basically.
Is that what he thinks he is?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the male version of Luis Mensch, basically. Yes. Like conspiracy theory resistance Twitter. That's how he became popular.
He's the Twitter version of Rachel Maddow monologue. That is what he does.
Block.
Yeah.
But he describes himself on his own website as a professor, attorney, journalist, editor, poet, and author.
A real Renaissance man.
Yeah, he does it all.
Maybe we should get Jody Bottom to review one of his poems.
We'll have a live reading next podcast.
Yeah, Walter can do a live
dramatic reading.
God, what a loser.
God, that's the best. All right, Aaron.
Oh, yeah, hi.
Why is USA Today going after a new American hero?
Well, let me just tell you a little bit about the story of a guy named James Aducci from Wisconsin. And that's the only place we know he's from. He wouldn't give the city that he's actually from. But AK-47 over here happens to be a Wisconsinite as well. So we know what type of character that we're dealing with. It's a very upstanding person who is not risk averse in his financial dealings. We're telling the story about Mr. Aducci's adventure to Las Vegas, where he took $85,000 in cash and put it all on Tiger Woods to win the Masters last week, to believe 14-1 odds. The payout was over $1.1 million for the gentleman. It was the boldest bet on the Masters of 2019. And it was also resulting in a massive loss for casinos throughout the globe, because Tiger Woods, as you all know, is basically the only golfer that anybody bets on.
Everybody wants to bet on Tiger Woods. Yeah.
Golf has horrible odds of actually returning a profit because it's so hard to predict, and it's also so hard for the athlete to win. But this happened to be the fact where lightning struck for the 5th time at Augusta. But this guy, smart enough to go ahead and drop $85K on it. USA Today comes in here because, as we all know, the phenomenon that I believe Griswold discovered of milkshake ducking somebody, where an internet phenomenon exists, and then you have to go and do extensive opposition research on the subject to smear them for being in violation of some kind of societal norm. Well, it turns out Mr. Aducci has a bit of a domestic violence issue in his background. I'm not sure what this has to do with his gambling his wife's money on Tiger Woods, but anyway, it is what it is. They discovered several charges of domestic violence in his past. He always talked about the debt that he had. Apparently, this guy was also in debt, so how he got the $85,000 to bet on Tiger is a bit of a mystery. But he is a millionaire now, so I'm just assuming most of those debts will be taken care of. But anyway, USA Today did an entire background report on this gentleman after he had become internet famous for the massive bet, and now we're all supposed to discard him like a pile of garbage. So that's USA Today's. Right. That's the value of American journalism today, is that you have to spend extensive resources, time going after the backgrounds of internet phenomenon. So lesson to be learned for future Free Beacon pieces that I expect to see populating our website within the hour.
Excellent. Yeah, we should get to work on that. All right. Of course, we at the Free Beacon, speaking of the Free Beacon, are not perfect. We make mistakes. We mess up sometimes. The worst of the Beacon...
But we never admit them.
Well, we would never admit them.
No, never.
The worst of the Beacon this week is, I guess, me, because I joked that Mayor Pete's cover photo for the New York Magazine looked disturbingly like the poster for the 40-year-old version. Both the cover and the poster feature a clean-cut guy with a goofy grin looking up slightly, with a bright background that has a touch of shading to it. I was accused of making a gay joke, but I can assure you this was not the case. I was making a dork joke.
There you go.
So no homophobia here, just dorkphobia. All right, that's all the time we have for this week. Make sure to review us on iTunes and tell your friends that we exist, or don't. I'm not the boss of you. See you guys next week.